Joined in studio by Popcru spokesperson Richard Mamabulo. Richard, thank you so much for joining us. And as a union, this is such a brazen attack on a fully fledged police station. Killings, what exactly happened? What went wrong?
Look, I think perhaps, of course, we want to send out condolences to the police officers who died. And we just learned now that there are 7 people who had been killed. There's one other police officer who died in hospital earlier on. Look, I think what we have discovered has been that since March last year, up until now, there have been about 70 firearms stolen from police stations around the Eastern Cape, and of course from 5 police stations, in fact. So of course this raises a lot of questions as to what had been done to ensure that those are stopped in the first place, as the trend keeps showing that it has been ongoing. It speaks to our intelligence services. What role have they been playing in that regard? But we obviously think that one of the factors that we have picked up has been that most of the stations are infrastructurally challenged. You know, we found out that in fact access has not been that strict, and in fact when you compare police stations within dominantly rural areas and those in affluent areas, there is a huge difference in terms of the facilities that they are provided. So most of our police stations are under-resourced in terms of vehicles and manpower. So those are some of the issues that we would need to fundamentally deal with in ensuring that we improve conditions all in all.
Now, let's speak about, you mentioned the difference between police stations in rural areas and in the more affluent areas. Is it a case of a difference of security? We heard the minister there in that clip, in that interview, where he stated the fact that they would put cameras and metal detectors. Just take us through the thought process with regards to why there is a huge difference in terms of security within a police station itself.
Look, the main thing is about them being under-resourced. In fact, if you look into many of our black communities, you find that there are satellite stations that cater for larger numbers of the population, and of course, under most circumstances, those very much under-resourced. The other challenge, of course, would be regarding employment conditions of police officers. If you are to go to a police station where there's perhaps one vehicle that services an entire community, and of course the limited number of police officers available on duty, especially at night, you'd be shocked, because those are certain things that have not been considered. And in fact, we've been hearing over the past months that there are plans, of course, to cut down the service as it stands. So we think those are some of the contributory factors towards what is happening. But the special case in the Eastern Cape has been that there have been showing trends that such things are happening, where over 80 firearms have been stolen from police stations, yet nothing has been done in that regard in terms of intelligence services.
Now, just the irony of the fact that the people who are supposed to serve and protect the people of the nation themselves need protection from, whether it's thieves or people who will attack them. Just that, is it a case of not expecting to be attacked at any point in time, or maybe understaffing, as you mentioned, under-resourcing, especially at night, because there's different numbers, lower numbers during the night, I guess, with regards to resources at the stations. Now, are police inadequately taken care of, or do they take it for granted that as police we do not expect to be attacked by anyone? We are the authority, and people should be able to fear us as the police, or respect us as police.
Look, under normal circumstances, police stations are supposed to be places of safety where people run to when they're actually in trouble.
Danger, yes.
Yeah, of course, and obviously that has shown to change. And I think it's mainly due to the factors that we've been speaking about, the under-resourcing part. And of course, I think one of the reasons why we've been strongly calling for the restructuring of the SAPS is precisely because we have not seen the SAPS management functioning fully well well. We have obviously complained about their bloated structures at national level, whereas there are lesser police officers on the ground, and we feel that those, we've got bloated positions, we've got duplication of roles at the top, and I think again, as it stands, the budget that goes to the national office is bigger than the budget that goes to the province of Northern Cape, as it stands. So you can see that there have been there are a lot of complications there. We feel that if you have those people coming down and actually doing the actual job of fighting crime on the ground, because you cannot fight crime at national office, we feel that part of that could obviously ensure that conditions are improved. The other factor has been that, I think within the criminal justice itself, we've been having many changes of positions, commissioners, ministers, and of course, when each person comes, they come with their own plan. Just before it is fully implemented and it's understood by police across all the structures, there's a new leadership, and that has of course caused a lot of confusion in the past, and we obviously hope that this is something that we won't be seeing moving onwards.
Now let's speak about reaction from your union members, that the police on the ground. This must be a shock for them as well with regards to the attack that took place in Ngcobo. And how have you managed to speak to members in different sectors of your union in different parts of the country with regards to this particular attack and how it makes them feel as police officers?
Look, for a long time police officers have been under a lot of duress. You remember that back in 2015 we had one of the highest numbers of police killings, though that trend still continues, though at a lower level. And of course what happened today basically suggests that even when you're in your own home, you could obviously be attacked. So that obviously would cause a lot of unrest. But further, police, of course, their morale has been very low due to obviously the salaries that they earn. They earn mega salaries, and their life conditions have not been improving so far.
Just speaking of the morale and everything that's taking place, the changes, you touched on the changes, and we've seen it also play out in the public domain where there has been a lot of changes with the leadership. What's been the reaction? We've seen the police minister reacting very strongly, and there's going to be security upgrades. Do you think this will be enough? And if an attack at one police station, there's a possibility that anything else can happen anywhere else. It sort of creates an impression of a vulnerability of the police. And you touch on the fact that, and we've seen and heard of attacks taking place on police, or police getting shot, whether outside of the duty and things like that. What do you think the leadership of the police should do going forward with regards to ensuring that police are able to protect themselves and communities?
Look, what we want is beyond words, of course, is action. I think that's quite needed. But again, I think it would be unfair to only give the burden of policing to police alone or its management. I think we need to have communities playing a role here. Police are the last defense of communities. They obviously the last difference between having good or bad communities. We think that, in fact, this has been proven that in areas where there are good relationships between communities and police, the crime rates tend to go down because we live amongst criminals within our communities. It's easier when police relate to communities that they actually find it easier to obviously prevent such occurrences from happening. And I think it's been far too long where we've been reactive, or rather police have been reactive in such situations. So in ensuring that we become proactive and deal with these things before they occur, the only real way is to obviously ensure that we work on the relationships we have with communities. We know that this has been a historical burden that comes from the apartheid era where police are generally not trusted, but there needs to be ways which we find commonly to ensure that those relations are improved. And of course that obviously would also mean that there needs to be a role played by all stakeholders in ensuring that we deal away with such activities.
And very quickly, just in wrapping up, Richard, what's been the reaction from the communities themselves, from the community of Ngcobo and surrounding areas?
Communities are shocked. In fact, I think most communities are having sleepless nights over such acts, because that literally means that criminals have taken over their communities if they are so brave enough to even attack police stations. But what we want to say, we want to warn criminals that any criminal who would lift a gun at a police officer, we think that police officers need to act decisively. It cannot be a continuous trend that criminals do as they wish within our communities.
Richard, we'll have to leave it there for now. Thank you so much for joining us. And that was Popcru spokesperson Richard Mamabulo joining us live in studio.